Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Masha Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back. On today's episode, Shay and I are happy to be speaking with a leader in design research and fellow podcaster, Mike Green, about the user testing tool Lookback. Happy to be sharing not only a last name, but initials too. So let's dive in. How you doing, Mike?
I'm very well, thanks, Matt. All the best people are called M. Green.
That's right, absolutely. Moshe's close. He's MM, so he's very close to us.
Yeah.
We'll count him.
Maybe I should change to Mikanovsky Green.
Yeah, we got you.
No, thanks for having me on the show. I said it's good to be here.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. We met at UXDX New York, and I love it how you came over to me after my stint on the stage, and you recorded me right there and then for your podcast. So that was very cool. So tell us a bit about yourself first, who you are, what do you do, and also a bit about your podcast as well.
So I'm a freelancer. I'm a user research lead. So I've been in UX as a discipline for about 10 years now. I won't go all the way back to kind of my early career, but I pivoted into UX from digital publishing about a decade ago via psychology. So psychology fascinates me, and I did a psychology master's and kind of moved into user experience, which is obviously great bedfellows. And what I've been doing in the last sort of 6 or 8 years is contracting mainly in government, UK government, because like many developed nations, the government spends a lot of money on trying to make public services accessible to citizens, and it does that through building, testing, ensuring kind of user-centered approach. And the British government's actually very, very good at that and has done it for quite a long time. So I've done work on kind of tax services and education services and all sorts of things. Some of it's actually, it sounds dry, but actually it's fascinating because you kind of get down in the weeds with people at vulnerable parts of society who need to interact with the government, and you have to kind of work out ways of ensuring that the services that you're building are accessible to everybody, that they make sense, that they're available 24/7, et cetera, et cetera. So at the moment, I'm working for my current client is a regulator, financial regulator. So we're embedding kind of user-centered design processes in there and kind of upskilling them as an organization in kind of how to go about using user-centered design, basically.
Excellent.
Nice. And it's funny that you're mentioning about government products and how boring there could be or dry there could be, but when I got to use a few of them recently because of some services that I needed from the Canadian government, both provincial and federal, and I was looking at some of their design and I'm like, I wish they had a better design here, or I wish their experience was better here. Because I notice these things, right? So sometimes they take you on a loop with like, click here to do this, and then they go and then click here to do this, and then go click here, and you go to the first place where they sent you to. And
Yep.
Oh, I know. And it kind of amuses me and frustrates me in equal measure when people you meet people socially and you talk about kind of the stuff you're working on, and people are like, oh yeah, I find it quite easy to tax my car in the UK, or the government services are quite good, aren't they? And I'm sort of tearing my hair out going, that's not an accident. That's an awful lot of people over a long period of time with a lot of expertise have tested these services, and the service design process is well established in government, and it's not an accident that this stuff is there are saying good.
Yes.
It doesn't just happen. Yeah.
That's excellent. And you have also a podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
That's right. So I have a podcast called Understanding Users, which is as the name suggests, it's all about user centricity and user centered design. So I publish typically a couple of episodes a month, and I interview long form and short form interviews with kind of thought leaders in user experience, digital designers, heads of research, startup founders, to get their perspectives on kind of this world we're moving in, the kind of user-centered approach to doing design. And as we were saying just before we started, Moshe, you and I kind of met at UXDX in New York last month, and I pounced on you in the corridor as you were passing. You just finished a talk with my microphone, and I you kindly gave me 10 minutes of your time to record. So I kind of quite like that, guerrilla corridor testing, corridor recording, as well as the kind of more formal interview like this. And it's fun. I enjoy it, and I get to meet lots of great people. And
Yeah, I love that.
It's something back.
Yeah, it's great to have
it was
fellow
awesome.
podcasters.
And also when I listened to that episode, I was like, oh, that's a very interesting one, because you hear a bit the energy of the background of people, and like this is in a public place, so it feels a bit different than a regular podcast, but different in a good way.
A little more
So
organic, maybe. Yeah.
the more, like natural, the more
Yeah.
like you're on a TV and people are interviewing you on the street or stuff like that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
It just felt really interesting. So let's get to why we're here for today. And so we're doing now this series about user testing platforms, and you have some experience and you're going to use them again with Lookback. So that's the product that we wanted to focus on today with you. Tell us a bit about what do you know. First of all, before we look at Lookback, what are the things that you expect to have in a user testing environment?
That's a really good question. So I've used a variety of tools, as most of us in this world have, and what fascinates me is the kind of explosion in recent years, even almost month by month now, of the plethora of tools, as you guys know far better than me from doing this podcast, I'm sure. But certainly things like online knowledge repositories in terms of user research. Whereas before we were, typically in my past projects, we've been storing audio files, Google Docs in Google Drive folders, and having to try to send people in to look at them, and then you get permissions issues and sharing issues. There's now, I've just started using another product called Dovetail, which is a conversation for another episode, I'm sure, but you can upload video into there, it'll create transcripts, you can tag it, you can do all sorts of kind of cool stuff. And from a user testing, kind of user research perspective, the organization I'm with at the moment, they're my clients, they're very cautious in their approach to technology adoption. That's one thing I've kind of learned because of the nature of what they do. Their digital teams and their kind of IT security teams are very, very cautious. So there was a long kind of process we had to go through to get clearance, which made kind of the idea of rapid testing and comparison of different tools not possible, which I think is an issue. I would have preferred to have had 3 or 4 different tools we could have tried side by side. But this Lookback was adopted because we want to do, they're scaling up their user research capability. So they want to be able to do kind of more moderated testing, kind of discovery style in-depth interviews. But at the same time, I've also been exploring kind of unmoderated testing where you can put a prototype live into the world, and people in their own time on their own computer can actually interact with it and record what they're thinking and saying.
Checking out the Lookback site, it looks like they do both moderated usability and unmoderated usability. So maybe we can hop into the moderated usability aspect of Lookback first, and then see what it's capable of, see what it's not capable of, and then we can move on to the unmoderated.
Yeah. So one of the reasons we had to adopt a tool like Lookback is because at the moment, and it's, I'm not an employee of theirs, this is my client, I speak as a kind of independent contractor, is because of the security restrictions, Teams is the kind of enterprise tool of choice, as it is for many large organizations, but they've disabled things like recording. So to be able to do research sessions, and because they're quite embryonic in terms of user research, people like me are coming and going, well, we don't just want to talk to people, we need to be able to record it and then analyze it and share clips with the rest of the organization. So we had to have a workaround. So we use this tool called Snagit, which is another sort of, basically it's a tool. Typically it's been a kind of editing tool for grabbing screenshots, but it also has got a video function, video recording. So what I was doing Teams calls and then using Snagit to record those over the top, and then using the Snagit recording to actually do the transcription. But it was a bit of a faff, basically. So the beauty of Lookback is it auto records. So when you invite someone to a session, the participant joins, and then it's recording by default. You don't have to kind of press any buttons or start the recording or stop the recording. As long as the session is live, it's recording. So it removes kind of one step from the process. There are a few, from that point of view, I think it's nice. There are a few usability issues we've encountered. A couple of them are quite basic and they really surprised me. So for example, there's no chat functionality within the tool itself. So if I'm midway through a typical sort of 60-minute session, want to do a kind of intro 15 minutes sort of discovery style questioning, and then for the last sort of 30, 45 minutes, I want to look at a prototype, I can't send them a URL like I can here on Zoom, the call we're on now, or in Teams, you've got chat, Google Meet, you've got a chat function, most of the big tools. But Lookback, for whatever reason, it's in their product backlog. So I have to then, in the middle of the session, send an email or get one of my team to send an email to the participant and say, can you just check your email? Which is really clunky and frustrating.
Right.
And the other big downside we've come across is that you can only have one participant per session. So we couldn't do this in Lookback. There's 3 of us on this call. It's only the moderator and the participant, which is fine if you're talking to 2 people in the same room. But obviously, if, as I've had, many occasions when an individual, an organization will say, oh, I want to bring in my colleague because they know more about X. To do that, Lookback, you have to have 2 separate sessions, which
it's especially hard nowadays with remote teams and stuff. Everybody working remote. Yep.
On the flip side, what is nice is that you don't have, you can have basically unlimited observers, and it's like the old-fashioned kind of physical, testing lab where you have a, one-way mirror, and the participant, although they might be aware there's people behind the mirror, they can't see them. So you can have, as the moderator could see all of the observers in the call, but the participant can't see anyone, or they don't know anyone else is on except the moderator. So obviously, from an ethical perspective, I say, look, there are people observing this call, but there's no sort of distraction where you've got people accidentally turning their cameras on or, unmuting their mics. You can hear dogs barking or people, which in sessions I've run in the past on Teams is obviously quite frustrating and can, I think, modify the participants' behavior sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah. It could be that their approach is more deterministic. Like we have gone through some deterministic products in the past that they tell you, this is how you have to do things, so go our way. And I've seen in the past that people in some UX research that I've been part of, that the UX researchers told us we can only interview one person at a time, even if in a physical room, not like even online, because they don't want to have biases from other people in the room. And maybe that's one of the reasons they don't allow other participants. So that one participant is, you hear from them directly without the bias. So it's not like, how do you call them, panels, but it's more of people, but it's like one person at a time that you can have as many observers as you want, like you said, but not other participants. So maybe that's the approach that they're taking.
That's interesting, Moshe. And I agree with that up to a point. I mean, I wouldn't want to try and, this is not a focus group. You wouldn't want to be trying to talk to 20 people online.
Right.
But it's not uncommon in user research to talk to a couple of, two people. Sometimes I wouldn't do more than that because it gets quite difficult to manage the conversation.
Right.
But as you say, but then I turn it on its head and go, it strikes me that for a product that is designed for, a user-centric mindset, it's not necessarily the most intuitive and user-friendly design itself.
Was there something in the Lookback that for a government contracts or government organization, they had more, that's why they won, that's why they prefer that product? Like, are they more secure, or is there something in there that makes it more appealing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I have to say I wasn't involved in any of the kind of
in the decision making,
the description, the financials of it. So I don't know what their pricing model is. I understand it's some kind of enterprise model, I would assume. It has got a free plan, but certainly the plan we're on is not the free plan. One of the issues that, again, and I don't want to keep bashing it because I think there's lots of positives about it, but one of the big problems we've come across is firewalls are blocking it. And I've raised this quite recently. And to give Lookback credit, their customer service guy, customer support guy, has been super helpful and very responsive, and he's passing on the messages to the product manager. But we've had at least, like the last week I ran a round of unmoderated testing, and 2 of the probably dozen emails I sent out, I got emails back from the participants saying, one of them had a screenshot saying that there was an error message on the login screen and it's some kind of incomprehensible error, and I sent the screenshot to Lookback and they said, well, that's because it's been blocked on their firewall. And I said, well, look, these are busy professionals using it in an office environment. We can't expect them to go to their IT teams and say, here, can you unblock the port so that we can access it? So that's
the least traction with the users there, so your test will be fast and you don't waste their time. What about the unmoderated one? Have you tried with them?
Yeah, so that's what I was referring to. So we built a prototype using the gov.uk prototype toolkit. And it's actually the process of building the test was super simple. So you just, you don't give it a title, you just write an intro spiel, kind of short text that the participant will see. You put the prototype link in, and then you've got like a task message which they see alongside. I guess that's another challenge, is you can't do it in a single window. The way they've set it up is you have it side by side. So you've got the task on the right hand side, which persists throughout the prototype, and then you've got the screen that they click through on the left. But to begin the session properly, you have to kind of resize your, perhaps you have to open basically 2 browser windows. And a number of participants, particularly those who are not tech savvy, have struggled with that. Those who are in find it fine once they're in, but I would argue that their instructions for setup are not as clear as they could be. And we fed that back as well, and they've said they've taken it on board. But in theory, you know, those like there was one lady who was doing an unmoderated test, and what I thought was really nice was that it pinged up in my admin dashboard for Lookback that this individual was on it, and there was a join link, and I clicked join, and I could actually go in and watch her in the unmoderated session doing it, speaking out loud, going through the prototype, and she had no idea I was there. And so I could actually watch it in kind of real time, and then I obviously jumped out, so I didn't want to.
Oh, that was real time.
I felt a bit bad being in there when she was in there, but it was look at it afterwards, and yeah. So you know,
that's the point of it for you to later see, you know, how people reacted, right?
Exactly. And
is
the export. So you've got a transcription option. Once it's recorded, you can create a transcription, or you could download the video. And actually, what I did was I played. So I took the video from Lookback, put it into Dovetail. Dovetail created the transcription. And then I played I basically, because it was there, she was only in the session about 7 minutes, because it was quite a short prototype, and I just took 5 minutes of the best 5 minutes as a single chunk and played that in the show and tell we did last week, and it really, you know, people were like, wow, this is great. There's a lot of them had never seen a user interacting with their product before.
Yeah, that's really powerful. As you move stuff over to Dovetail, are you using that as a repository? It's something that's come up in some of the other tools that Moshe and I have spoken about, is the ability to have a repository of these recordings. Yes. Is that what you're using Dovetail for?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So because we've adopted, or the organization's adopted Dovetail kind of midway through, or certainly for our team, we finished discovery, we're now into our alpha. So there's a kind of retrospective housekeeping where we need to upload all the videos into Dovetail and start tagging them, which is a job which is not filling me with a huge amount of joy. But the idea will be that Dovetail will end up as the repository for all the recordings and the transcripts and the tags and everything else.
Yeah, cool. Lookback has a way for you to get panels or to get people, or do you have to provide the people to do the tests?
That's a really good question. And, you know, I honestly can't answer that. I don't know. It may well do. I'm not going to try and speculate either way. But
so usually you bring your own people?
Yeah. So we because of the nature of what we're doing is quite specialized. We don't, this particular client, we don't have a external recruiter. So we know who we want to in advance. But if it did, and I know lots of those sort of platforms do, then that's quite nice. It obviously depends on A, how much it costs to do that, and B, how good they are, because, you know, your research is only as good as the users you're getting in terms of their relevance to your brief.
Yeah, their site does not make it known as some of the other ones do. We noticed some of the other ones, they even say, hey, become a tester. It doesn't appear that their site mentions anything about panels or providing panels, so you might have to bring your own. It's interesting.
Maybe not yet. Yeah.
So how easy it is, like you have to find your own users, and then what do you do to send them or bring them into a test?
So that's quite nice. So it generates a participant link, and you create, I forget the terminology, let's call them projects, and you set up a project, let's say, and then there's one thing that's really nice is it's one link for everyone taking part. So unlike Teams or Zoom, where you have to send every participant another, you know, so if you've got a round of 8 or 10 participants, you've got 8 or 10 links, you're trying to remember who you sent to what, etc., which is quite annoying sometimes. You literally send the same Lookback link, and it'll only allow one person in at a time. So if, for whatever reason, 2 people try to access, the first one will get in, the second one just won't let them in. So there's no risk of them bumping into each other. And the same with Observer link. You can literally just send. So I send my team the Observer link, all of them have the same link, and they can enter as observers, and the participants just have the single participant link.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then how long usually those tests are conducted? Like, what does it take for you to be satisfied with the test?
Well, that's a question. It depends on what you want to get out of it, I suppose. I normally allow an hour, because I think busy professionals, more than an hour at a time is too much, and also people get tired. Often it's less. I mean, it can be half an hour. What I quite like to do is, in that hour, as I mentioned before, have, say, 15 to 20 minutes of...
I assume you're talking about the moderated one, right?
Yes, moderated, yeah.
Yeah, unmoderated one for an hour, that would be way too long.
No. Well, like I said, the unmoderated, the participant we had last week, it was about 7.5 minutes.
Right, exactly.
I think more than about 10, you're probably on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah.
Because people are going to just, and also it's a bit weird sitting there on your own, I imagine, talking to yourself for more than about 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So with the moderated one, yeah, I understand like how much time you can get from the users, and you don't want to tire them, and also you want to have some objectives and stuff like that. But you still need to analyze all the results after that, because most of it is really quantitative. With the unmoderated one, sorry, I'm always getting them confused. The unmoderated one, it's unmoderated, so you send to probably as many people as you can, and then you need to get some qualitative information. No, quantitative, right? Information to make decisions, right? So usually does that take you like a day or two or a week, or like what's your best experience with that?
Well, I mean, again, another good question. It's early days for me, Moshe, so I can't really give you a ballpark figure. I mean,
okay.
The moderated ones we've done typically is like the session itself is 45 minutes to an hour. And as I mentioned before, what we do then is take the video out of Lookback, put it in Dovetail, and do the analysis in Dovetail. And then it's a question of what tag structure have you set up, and then kind of going through and tagging it. The power for me is in the show and tell, because there's nothing, as you well know, there's nothing like showing stakeholders, particularly people who aren't versed in user-centered methodology, a real user struggling with because there's often a sense very much that our existing platform, we know our users, they have to do what we tell them. They should just read the guidance. We've heard this a lot. We're like, there's quite arcane, complicated regulatory guidance. And we're like, well, they don't read guidance. Oh, but they should read the guidance. They need to read. And you go round and round and round and round like this until you show them a video of someone going, I have no idea what this means. I don't understand this guidance. And then kind of light bulbs come on and people go, okay. Now we get it. So from that point of view, it's good. But the analysis, I mean, yeah, it in some ways it's longer with unmoderated because you've got to watch it several times. But again, I can share the videos with the whole team and people can watch them in their own time, and then we collaborate on. We use Mural as a kind of virtual whiteboarding tool for affinity diagramming and that kind of stuff. So there's various tools we're using as part of the process.
You don't use FigJam?
Figma's blocks. Well, no, actually, that's not true. Certain aspects of Figma are open to, but FigJam, no, Mural was the chosen tool. So
I see. Yeah,
that works.
There's just a peeve problem for me, because I don't like FigJam because it's not as powerful as some of the other products. But many companies are using Figma, so they have FigJam license for free.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, we have it, we're going to use that, but It's not the best.
Miro is my favorite. I think that's that of all the
Miro
tools.
I think Miro is best.
Yeah, Miro is good.
Yeah.
There's issues with kind of, I think, where it's hosted, which cause alarm and certain. So I've been with organizations in the past where they've started using Miro and then they've stopped because of
interesting. Yeah. But we are already veering here to very different topics. Sorry about that. I kind of tend to do that sometimes.
They all cross over, right?
Yeah, it is, and especially when you talk with designers, like UX researcher, UX designer, those are the tools that you will use a lot. And
they're the same sandbox.
It's like everyone is using Figma, so it's annoying sometimes. Not that I'm saying it's a bad product. Figma is a great product, I think, but FigJam is just not there yet, in my opinion. Right? Cool. So we talk a lot about Lookback, and mostly it seems like you do the moderated one, and you mentioned some of things you like about it, some of the things you don't like about it. So we don't necessarily need to repeat that again, unless there is more other features you would like to mention that you really like about them, and other features that you would hope they will listen to you here and say, okay, let's fix that because people are complaining about them, right?
It's a good question. I mean, there is a chat function. One thing I haven't mentioned is that there is it's a bit like kind of post-it notes on the wall of the observer room in the physical world that I can see on the right-hand side of my screen as the moderator, the chat, and I can interact with the observers, and they can post messages and notes, and they can tag, timestamp various parts. But obviously the participant can't see that, and that's, I think, quite nice in principle, but I'm not sure the way it's executed. I don't find it as easy to use necessarily or search through. Or sometimes if you're going to the extent of trying to type put something in the chat, by the time you typed it, you've kind of forgotten, you've missed what the participant was saying about the next thing. So
yeah. It's an interesting one, actually, because I was looking, we talked about we hear podcasters, you have your own podcast, and some podcast tools have similar functionalities to that, where you can highlight points in the discussion or put comments or stuff like that. But then you have to multitask while you're doing this. So if you have a producer, that's fine. But if you are you're the presenter, you're the one conducting the test, you don't want to lose them while you're putting your thoughts in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's an interesting one for sure. Now, you also mentioned a bit about their customer support or customer success, and you said that they're very responsive. So that's good to hear. We always ask about also the company behind it, because it's part of who we choose to do business with when we choose a specific product, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, there's one individual, Russ. I'll shout him out now. We went on a call with him to raise some of the kind of everything I've shared with you here, basically. Mm-hmm. And he took it on board and he said he passed it back to his the product team internally. They are listening, I think, and they have some kind of guarantee. I came across it by accident on their website about record, because I think you basically are charged per session or something like that, or rather the organization is. Mm-hmm. And if for whatever reason you're not happy with the session, or you're allowed more credits, or they give you your money back for that session or something. So I think they are keen to kind of, and we'll see. We've raised quite a lot of feedback with them. How much of that they take on board and make changes, I don't know, but they seem receptive.
I wish Netflix will pay me back for every movie that I didn't like. But that's why it's a subscription. It's not per movie. But no, that sounds like an interesting way to keep you happy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think overall, it's good. It's got lots of features which work quite well. There's a few, I think, surprising usability issues that I'm surprised that it's not an unheard of tool. I think it's becoming more well known, but hopefully they will kind of improve those over time. But,
believe me, every product on this podcast, we were able to find something that people don't like about it. So there's always things people like and things people don't like and stuff like that. So it's all good.
This is a great discussion, and I noticed this is a theme that Moshe and I maybe noticed in a prior show around these tools having some dependency upon themselves. So like Lookback, you're using Dovetail. Some of these other tools might have some of that as well, with whether it be UseZoom, Usability Hub. There's some other ones we spoke to. So it sounds as though this has a specific use case, and you might use another tool for additional support. But it sounds like what it's doing is doing well, and so that's why you're liking it.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point, Matt. And a number of times I thought using this tool, I thought, if I had one tool to do everything, like if Dovetail could incorporate kind of Lookback or Lookback functionality into it, or vice versa, it seems frustrating and annoying that you have to kind of chop and change between multiple platforms as a researcher. Do what you need to do. If you could record, transcribe, analyze, tag everything in a single platform. Maybe there is one. I don't know. I haven't used one that does everything. I think that would be fab.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Dovetail might be one lacking some of these recordability stuff, or the ability to moderate and unmoderate. Maybe there's an opportunity down the road for like Dovetail to acquire some of this. I know one of the companies we spoke to, whether it be UserZoom, they acquired somebody recently. Moshe, I don't recall who that was, but
maybe Testing bought UserZoom, I think.
Yeah, so maybe some consolidation down the road.
Yeah,
exactly. Who knows? What about the analytics? Do you know if there is any analytics functionality in Lookback?
That's a good question. No, I'm not. As far as as a sort of research admin user, no. One thing we did actually, there's a specific question around that I had for them, because we'd had quite low take up, and it wasn't anything to do with the tool. I think it was, unmoderated testing. It's kind of, you have to kind of scatter your pellets widely to get people to bite. So I sent about a dozen emails, and almost nobody for the first few days had responded, or I could see in the tool hadn't actually done the unmoderated test that I set. So what I said to Lookback was, I asked them, is there any way of knowing if anyone's even clicked on the link? Can you track clicks on the participant link that I sent out? that seems surprising. And again, it's a bit disappointing because at least you would know if someone had clicked on the link and tried to get in.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit like a marketing campaign that you want to know how it performs if people have got it. So the same thing with your links to test different things, especially that you bring the people, so you invite them. It's not like they have a panel of people that they bring. I guess with some of those platforms we talked about that have their own panels, they will guarantee to you the number of people that you would want to test with and the time period that it will be done in. Where here, if they don't bring the panel, you bring the panel, you kind of have to take care of that. And I know from experience how frustrating it could be when you don't have people reacting to your request to test these things, or they tell you they will do it and they don't do it, and all of that stuff. So I get it. I get it. Is there anything else, Matt, you would like to ask your namesake over there?
No, you hit on the analytics, and I don't think it has any integrations at this moment, from what I can tell. If you're using any, Mike, I'm not sure, but that would just be another question I had in terms of integrating with tools.
No. I mean, it's possible. As I said, I don't pretend to be a power user of it, but for what I've used it for so far, it's, for example, it's literally export the video, download the video, upload it into Dovetail or Google Drive or Teams, or wherever else you want to store it. I would hope that there is some kind of integration down the line, but
not always opportunity to improve. So that's great.
Well, these people these days, companies are only care about AI. That's the only thing they can think about.
Yeah.
So who knows what will come up there?
OpenAI be the first integration.
Yeah. Exactly. No, totally. And actually, on my own podcast, talking to kind of UXs, it's amazing how much the conversations have pivoted towards AI. Because I'm sure are here, it's just people want to talk about it and understand it, and all these kind of fears that are being fanned by the media.
Yeah,
I think everyone is worried that would our job be replaced by AI on one end, and whether it is or not, how can we do our job easier by using AI, utilizing AI? So that's probably the two things going on right now. And then, of course, all the investors and all of that stuff. I think we touched on it a bit with some of our other guests in this series of user testing, where maybe coming up with the questions or coming up with the what to test or stuff like that maybe could be assisted by AI. I'm not sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I as an experiment I tried recently for the kind of last round of testing I did, I just put a prompt into ChatGPT, write me a research plan. This is what I want to research. These are the questions I want answered. This is the kind of demographic I'm looking to, understand from. And, you hit return and bang, within about 5 seconds, the entire research plan had been written. And I just structured the discussion guide, what to ask, intro, approximate timings for each section of the interview. And I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And I pretty much used what it suggested. So.
Oh, that's cool. So it did help you in your job. Awesome.
What does that mean for us as researchers or designers or anything else?
Yeah, that's definitely the benefit of it to be the assistant rather than the replacement. That's the approach I'm taking in all this, whether it's product management, design, anywhere within the business. It's definitely an assistance, not a replacement. As of now.
And it's that thing about kind of the long sweep of history. The printing press, everyone panicked and, it's going to replace this and that. And the internet's going to replace, libraries are going to replace us. And it's just the next stage. Right. It's a question of like, once everything calms down and we kind of figure out how can we harness this stuff. And there have always been bad actors. As long as we build in checks and balances.
That's right.
You're saying new technologies, same fears and same results at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I tried it with my kids the other day. I've got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I was sitting in the garden with my laptop open, and I had Midjourney open, and I just I said, "What picture? Give me a subject of a picture." And my daughter loves unicorns, so it was like a blonde curly girl on a unicorn in a forest, bang, within seconds, and she was just like, "Wow!"
Yeah. Midjourney's amazing. Yeah.
What they're going to be using, in not very many years at school and uni and
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us from across the pond. Where can people reach out to you?
So the LinkedIn, I'm sure you put put that in the
Yep,
show
we
notes.
will.
Yep.
Yep.
Researchable.uk is my website, but primarily kind of I'd encourage people to listen to my podcast, Understanding Users. It's on Podbean, but it's also on Google, Apple, Spotify, all the usual places. It's on YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you said it's researchable.co.uk?
Researchable.uk.
Oh, just researchable.uk. Awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us. We really appreciate that you coming on the show.
Yep.
It's been great. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, gents.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Mike. Thanks to all the listeners. Thank you, Mache, and we'll talk to everybody next time.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.